the 2.4 GHz wireless PlayStation Fake whatever thing stick controller. Then we're having this 2.4 wireless Lite X game stick. We have the 4K game stick, emulator game stick. Oh man, there's a lot of stick to the stick. And of course the Powkiddy Y6. You know what the problem is with all of these things? There's none of them are perfect and we have a lot of issues. So therefore, let's take a close look at the compute stick. Let's make ourselves a game stick 4K with no limitations. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video we are going to build ourselves an, let's say, a game stick that can play so much more than all the cheap crap that we've reviewed here on the channel. Yeah, some of the cheap crap is around like $90, and yeah, for that money we cannot really complain. Besides that, most of them get corrupted out of like nothing because they have these self-destructing freaking SD cards. The Game Stick Y6 is a very cool, let's say, plug-and-play solution, but the major problem with these things are they are getting around like $50 and even sometimes bigger amounts of money. In this video, we are going to do another kind of, let's say, build with Batocera. So yeah, this is not like your typical game stick. This thing is huge compared with, let's say, the game stick from China. But this is something different. This is actually a mini PC, and with the mini PC and Batocera, we can do so much more cool stuff. Okay, so first of all, when it comes to the size, you can just see that this mini PC is absolutely crazy how huge this thing is. Yeah, I know, that's what she said. But the thing is, when it comes to these, let's say, cheap game stick, even if you're getting no focus at all, like me, and you just want to play these things, they're just great. You just plug it into your HDMI. If you have a good SD card, you can just enjoy all kinds of 8-bit and 16-bit and PlayStation games. But they are limited. And when you're getting into a different class, you're also going to get a different kind of price tag. The more fine Intel, let's say, mini PC that is inside of this thing is absolutely awesome. So first of all, the model number is the M1K, and it comes only with the J4125. We have already different models out there, but they also come with a way bigger price tag. It comes with 8 GB of internal RAM and 128 GB of storage for the Windows itself. Okay, so we can remove the cap, and this is actually the thing. We can just plug it in, and yep, it's absolutely huge. So if you're going to be plugging it in and it doesn't fit, so you also have extension cords that you can plug in and use it like that. We're going to get ourselves two USB ports. One I'm going to use for the hard drive, another one for the controller. And we also have the option for a micro SD card. So if you want to put Batocera on that, that is also possible. And of course, here we're having the input for the power supply. So that's actually what we're getting. An on and off switch on top. And there's nothing more. But let's chit chat about Batocera and all the other options we're having. But shall we do a sneak peek in the inside? How will it look? We can remove the top cover fairly easy. Always be very gentle. So you can just already see that the Wi-Fi antenna has been like stick with some Velcro tape or double side. Yeah, it's Velcro tape if they call it. And they just put it on the top part over here so we have the best Wi-Fi receiving. But the thing is, it's interesting to see how tiny this thing is when it comes to, let's say, the fan and everything else. It's absolutely amazing how, let's say, small they can make them, but also makes them more expensive to make. And of course, the price will be, let's say, way more expensive than your typical mini PC. But that's what we're getting in the inside. Yeah, there is nothing much to see beside this. Yep, and yeah, when it comes to less storages, also there, you don't have a lot of, like, say, upgrade options. But if you want, and you do have the option to just plug in straight into your television, yep, this is how it's actually going to be looking. It is absolutely huge and just sticking out of your monitor itself. But yeah, that is actually what we signed up for ordering, let's say, a game stick or a computer game stick. Another thing we can also do is, if you don't want to plug it in like this, here we're having the all famous extension cord or HDMI extender that I was talking about, and we can just plug it in like that. And it's just dangling around behind your monitor itself. Okay, so I want to focus on Batocera, and the reason why, because there are some kits out there that you can get. I mean, you can buy this very nice case where you can maybe store your mini PC, but inside the case it's completely like a kit. So this contains a hard drive, also called the Powkiddy pad. That isn't one of those different kind of versions you can basically buy, but also includes the controllers. Oh, I must say that I have been, let's say, bitching on these controllers forever because they are okay quality, but absolutely not the overall quality of an original PlayStation 2 controller. So take that into consideration. This is an okay quality, but I have seen way better ones out there. But this is more one of those kits you can just slap on a mini PC, configure it, and you're ready to go. But take consideration where these things claim they're like a plug and play solution, you always need to do tinkering with them, do all, let's say, the power of the mini PCs, and not to forget also, some of the things are completely like not configured at all, so you need to have some knowledge about Batocera. Another solution what they're selling is one with or without a controller. I think one of those companies is Kinhank. It's the same situation where they're having 2 TB hard drive. I think there were even cheaper small ones, but 2 TB is basically the sweet spot when it comes to the storage capacity. Yeah, and if you're getting into, let's say, the PlayStation 3 and stuff like that, and you have a more powerful device, then you're going to be having an issue, because then we need absolute more than 2 TB. They're selling it without a controller or with a controller. They are the BiTop controller. I'm pronouncing the name correctly. They are similar like a PlayStation 4-ish controller, very nice quality, and this kit is, in my opinion, still one of the favorite ones. But let's say you want to create yourself an own Batocera emulation beast. We can just do this by simply adding the Batocera on a USB stick and just plug it into a device. Another way is going to be with a micro SD card. Some of the devices do have even the option to add yourself a micro SD card, so that's very convenient. Also, we have an NVMe or just an SSD that can implement in your device, and this is more of the question, what will it support? And that is one of the things you need to take consideration what you're actually buying. And one of the easy ways is just if you're having an option for a 2.5-inch drive slot, you can just put in an extra SSDs. Now making this video, they are quite expensive. You're going to get into the 2 TB, but of course solid state is super fast for loading and it is very reliable. Next up, and they are using a lot of these platter disk, old school 2 TB. They are dirty cheap to get. And of course, take consideration, a 2.5-inch drive is always like more expensive if you're going to be beyond the 2 TB. And actually, this is one of those many ways that you can install Batocera and just actually implementing internal or external with your mini PC. But okay, so most of the guys who are basically making these drives, yeah, you can also do it yourself. And what you can do is get yourself an enclosure and putting the platter disk in here if you don't have an internal, let's say, storage capacity. But and again, take consideration, also get yourself a USB 3.0 for the best and the fastest speeds out there. Also with a platter disk, you have the fastest speed disk. Of course, it will, let's say, has differences in the price, but also in the performance when you're getting a slower one. Okay, but how are we going to get the software? You can just download this for free, batocera.org. Here we can find the software that we're going to need for installing and get yourself like this mini PC to run all kinds of retro games. So what you need to do is going to the download page, and you can already see over here that we have all kinds of, let's say, hardware that is supported with Batocera. So this is not like some simple program that is only possible to use on a mini PC. There are all kinds of different handhelds and devices or just general devices that can get the Batocera running. But the thing that we're going to need, we're not going to scroll through the whole list. In here we're finding the desktop, laptop and other devices. That is one of the ways you can go to. But another thing you can do is, depending on what kind of software we're needing, is that we're having underneath, we're having all kinds of different versions, even to the Anthem and the low power devices. And here we're having old PCs. You can even run Batocera on that too. If you're going to be needing to flash this on a certain kind of storage device, the program that I most of the time use is Balena Etcher. It's a very nice to use free download. You can just download it for free and getting yourself your Batocera installed and flashed on, no, I don't want to have your cookies, reject all. And then of course use this on your Windows device or even on Mac OS. From this point you can just launch the file they've downloaded, the image file, and just burn it to your storage device, depending on the model you're having, but in the end it's going to be the same kind of BIOS functionality. So if you're being in the BIOS, most of them pressing the F9 or the Del button, but before booting up Windows, here we need to go to the security. So the secure boot needs to be shut off, and the reason why, otherwise it's not possible to boot into Batocera. Another thing that you need to check out is the boot. So here you can already see boot option 1 has been set to Windows Boot Manager. What you need to do is set this actually to the Kinhank or the Batocera one you have made. What you can also do, if you don't want to use Windows, you can disable this. So we're actually only going to get ourselves the Kinect boot. So here we're going into the save, going to save changes and exit. And when you've done this, it will automatically boot into Batocera. Depending on how many games you have installed and how many different emulators, it will take up a little bit of a time to boot up the machine itself. But there is so much that we can actually play when it comes to cheaper game boxes. So if you wanted to deep dive into the 8-bit, 16-bit stuff, handhelds, you name it, they will run no problem whatsoever. We will test out a couple of them in this video. But particularly when you're looking into MAME, they were having more options to play. Of course, this is not the most powerful device out there, so we will find some limitation when it comes to PlayStation 2, Xbox and the GameCube. But N64, this is one of those systems that I wanted to check out, because there we're going to have so much better overall experience when it comes to emulation performance. It's going to be a lot of fun just checking out what can we actually play with this. It's going to be way more when it comes to the cheaper game boxes. So let's get into it. Okay, the next thing we're going to check out is the main menu by pressing start. Over here we're going to the system settings, and with the system we can change out all kinds of things, but we're going to check out the information. With the information, here we're going to find out the information of the hard drive and all the other things. For example, the storage capacity is 2 TB we're using in this particular configuration. So the temperature is going to be 53 Celsius and it will become hotter when actually playing this thing for a couple of hours. So the available memory, it shows over here, it's 8 GB. It comes with the 4125 CPU that runs on 2 GHz and has a quad core. But the max frequency is 2700 MHz. And when you're looking at the 600 graphics, the Intel, that is actually the GPU. So these are the options and this is the specifications what we're having when it comes to, let's say, this device. It's not the most powerful one. Take consideration, if you're getting a newer chipset, you will have better performance, especially when it comes to PlayStation and GameCube. But let's see what we can get with like a device like this. But what is really interesting with the mini PC, even with a low-end chip, we can mess around with the settings. Pressing select in the game menu will give you a different kind of an options called view options. Here we can jump into different kind of letters if you want to do a quick search. In advanced systems, pressing the next or the A button, or basically how you configure this, then you can mess around with the emulator. Another thing we also can do, and that's a very exciting thing that we can mess around with, is the internal resolution can be upscaled. So everything looks even better than with the normal, let's say, emulators we're having with the cheap game boxes. So we have all kinds of cool options that we can swap out, and if you of course have problems, you can also like mess around with it here. And when it comes to a mini PC like this, everything will look so much better, and that is one of those extra things you're getting with this. Alright, so we're starting off with some PlayStation 2. That is a system that doesn't even run on cheaper game boxes. But with a product like this, yeah, we don't have just enough power to actually run this. It's quite interesting to see that it actually boots up, but you just see that it struggles big time getting this to run. But would be cool to check out in the future some game sticks with a little bit more power, just to see how we can actually get PlayStation and other systems running. But so far, it's quite interesting to see that it even boots up and we can actually play something. Okay, so next up I just wanted to play some PlayStation Portable. PlayStation 2 is maybe something we cannot really play on this, but PlayStation Portable is playable, or most of the games, where we have absolutely horrible overall emulation performance with cheap game boxes. With this mini PC or mini game stick can actually play PlayStation Portable. I've been tweaking with some games, also with upscaling, but I've noticed that we don't have amazing overall performance and we just need a different configuration of chipset to get overall better performance. Because this is just fun for like native resolution on most games. 3DO is one of those systems I could never really enjoy when it comes to the cheap game boxes. Think about 50 all the way up to $100 freaking dollars. But with the game stick or the mini PC stick, we can actually play this without any problem whatsoever. It will be running on native resolution, but I don't really mind that. Indeed. But not everything is all fun and game. Unfortunate when it comes to certain systems. Even with some tinkering, there is no way getting these things to work. It's quite weird, but also quite unfortunate, where we have like the same configurations with different kind of, let's say, mini PCs, but this particular one doesn't run that great. So let's move on. A game that we can just play without any problem on cheaper game boxes, that's one of those like MAME games, 64 Street. Where it's getting really interesting is that we can test out some Killer Instinct. That is the game that will run actually on this. Also MAME with Tekken, there we have like some limitations. So that's one thing you need to take consideration when getting some cheaper game sticks. Having more power also means having way more possibilities when it comes to playing to MAME. But of course, if you just want to play some games, you don't really necessarily need to have a Batocera with a very expensive mini game stick, because there are so many different ways you can actually play this. So that's also why I don't want to go in depth in this, just want to showcase what runs and what doesn't. Another system I just wanted to look up is the Atari Jaguar, just to see how it will run. I did notice some weird things going on. One of the things I can even not find my pedal to put it to the metal. I can hear some crackling noise in the audio. That is unfortunate. But this seems to be replayable. What a weird game. Jet Set Radio is one of those systems from Xbox Classic that's absolutely great. And there are many different games that will run either on this, but take consideration that also when it comes to, let's say, low power devices, we will find a lot of games that will struggle with this. So if you want to get into this, I think you just need to have more power, and in the future it would be cool to check out some other mini PCs that have like similar specifications or at least a very same price, but can maybe play this without any problem, where Jet Set Radio seems to be working just fine. Another system that is pretty damn awesome to play on this is of course GoldenEye. This doesn't really run on many of the cheaper game boxes, and it looks kinda nice even on the native resolution. I didn't got a lot of questions what kind of system can run N64, and this actually, for the people wondering, this is the answer. You did hear some minor stuttering going on, but the overall performance is absolutely great. Okay, so next up I just wanted to check out some GameCube, and with the GameCube you are really pushing it to the limit when it comes to this. The same with the PlayStation 2 emulation. We do have an okay emulation with some hiccups, so it's still playable, but if you're getting into the less demanding, maybe some two-dimensional, you can even have some better performance. So it's quite interesting to see actually GameCube running on this, to a point that it is actually playable. And even if you're going to be playing more and more, it's going to be like rendering and emulating it way better than before. But one thing for sure, I'm getting my ass kicked here. But another thing I just wanted to check out is Sega Dreamcast, one of my favorite systems to play. But with this mini PC we can even upscale it to the 720p resolution. And it looks absolutely astonishing when you're looking at this picture over here. I hope the camera picks it up. And that's one of the things you cannot do with cheap game boxes. And you can do with, say, a basic cheap mini PC. Making Batocera, in my opinion, way superior than it comes to these game boxes you need to pay maybe almost, let's say, half the money for. But next up, Sega Naomi. And the thing I wanted to do is just to see how far we can push this thing. We're even going to force it all the way up to 1080p internal resolution, making this thing look absolutely great. But take consideration, you always need to tinker with it when you're having a low power PC like this. I've noticed if you're going to put Dead Alive on the same resolution on the Dreamcast part, it's going to be stuttering and not a great experience. So that is something we're having, and that's one of the things that we need to live with when it comes to these low powered mini PCs. Okay, but next up I just wanted to check out some Sega Saturn that runs no problem whatsoever on a mini PC, but I also wanted to upscale it to see what actually happens. I have no idea what happens to the controls, but I can tell you that it's pretty damn looking great now, with not on native resolution like the cheap game boxes, but we can actually play this on higher resolutions, so it's quite nice. I can hear some stuttering going on, so I maybe need to lower to 480p, or maybe just see what happens. But so far so good, and this game seems to be running just great. So is this going to be absolutely one cable nightmare? Yup, it is. So it's not going to be the most easy solution how I actually did it. So I'm using a USB hard drive. I want to have like a massive storage capacity. But yeah, you can just see it's going to be a lot of, like say, spaghetti when it comes to the cables. And it's going to be even more worse if you're going to be using a mouse and keyboard and, like say, USB extension cord and all the craziness. But the idea, what you can also do is like leave the hard drive out and get yourself a micro SD card, flash it to that, let's say a 5 on 12 gigabyte, and just let it boot up from there. So that's one of the other systems you can also do, and you just plug it in, and yep, that's it. A mini PC game stick is not for everyone. Of course, this can be a great solution if they are at least like add normal micro SD cards. Yeah, the thing is, when it comes to these devices, they're plug and play and you don't need to do a lot of tinkering, but they come with a lot of limitation and a lot of emulation performance problems. So this can be an absolutely emulation beast compared to this tiny thing. Another thing is also when you're looking at the, let's say, different devices you can buy with different kind of sizes. So I already spoken about some of these devices and different kind of, let's say, not form factors, but also the chipsets. So this is more like an older chipset as making this video, but it is still very nice when it comes to some of the, let's say, platforms where we have an even older or similar ones in different kind of configuration that had, in my opinion, way better, let's say, overall, let's say, performance. With newer versions, we're even going to get better performance, but also the price is going to be completely different. And the sticks, this is one of those sticks you can even get a different kind of chipset with more power. But again, that's the question, is it worth the money? Because sometimes you do need to pay a lot of money for it. And I noticed that these things are quite expensive. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Check out my other videos about emulation and options there. And it would be great if you subscribe, hit the little bell, and I will see you in the next video.